Good morning. Morning. Oh, thanks. Thanks for the response. We already have participation here. Notice was properly given of this regular meeting of the City of San Angelo Development Corporation to be held today, June 10th, 2026 at 8:30 a.m. in the East Mezzanine of City Hall, 72 West College Avenue, San Angelo, Texas, for the purpose of considering the posted agenda items. So we'll go ahead and call this meeting to order, 8:31 a.m. And we'll start off with a prayer delivered by Mark Porterfield from Sierra Vista Methodist Church. Good morning, Mark.
Good morning.
Good.
Let us pray. Gracious God, we give you thanks for this day, and particularly for this development corporation. You have always been about development from the beginning of time, and you're always focused on developing your people and good things for your people. So I give you thanks for the blessings of the efforts that surround this table and for the long-range thinking. I ask that you'd bless this time, bless all of these individuals, and be in the mix and make yourself known. We ask all of this in the name of your greatness. And all God's people said, amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mark, for being here. All right, item 3, we'll go public comment. Issues or items that are not on the agenda may be raised by the public at this time. Citizens should speak from the podium, begin by stating their name, and limit their remarks to less than 3 minutes. Board members may request that a discussed item be placed on a future agenda. The board takes public comment on all regular agenda items during the discussion of those items. Do we have any public comment?
Jamal Schumpert.
Okay. Good morning, Jamal.
Good morning. Jamal Shumpert, SMD3. I just wanted to make a public comment about y'all's vision. It's kind of hard to see what's coming from this board, and I've come up.
Speak up a little bit. Sorry.
Okay, sorry about that. I'm having trouble trying to decipher you guys' vision, and this has happened to me every different board from John Barrio on. It seems like it's a lot of intervention between the city and the development corporation. A lot of memorandum of understandings, money that could be used towards other needs for the city with economic development. And another thing is that some of that money could be focused on expanding some of your programs that directly benefit small businesses. That's why I kind of take slight issue with so many studies that's coming out of here. They determine a lot of things, and I think these studies are not geared towards the benefit of the public. They're geared towards certain individual council members' visions, and not the entire city's visions. I can tell you there's so many more things that we need outside of these studies that we wouldn't even have to do studies for, that we've already done studies for. One of the greatest examples is the 29th Street Park. We've been talking about that for over a decade. It's been trying to be built, and the funds have been there. That is just the vision of the city isn't to upgrade that area. And I think one of our biggest issues is we're not putting enough money into the north side. And I think that's stifling our development. There is quite a bit of land out there that is flat and really easy to just clear off and use, build homes, build businesses, retail, industrial. It could be a whole nother city out there, which is what they planned, but I'm not sure if the people who planned that decades ago before I got here are still around, involved in the city. But yeah, that's all I had to comment on about public comment. I have other comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Jamal. All right, we'll go into the consent agenda. Consider approving the May 13, 2026 meeting minutes. And B, consider approving the April 2026 financials. We got a motion to approve. Second. Director Barton, second. Director Lewis. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Consent agenda passes. Do we have any public comment and consent? Sorry about that. Should, right. Sorry about that. I'll get there. We'll go to the regular agenda. Item A, we're going to go ahead and pull that item from the agenda. They're gonna do a little more research, a little more work, and bring that back to us. So we'll go to item B, review and consider updates to the preliminary FY 2027 operating budget presentation by Jonathan Flores, Finance Director.
Good morning, Board. Jonathan Flores, Corporate Treasurer. And we are bringing to you today a draft version of the budget. This is preliminary budget after we've reviewed revenues, projected revenues out for the next fiscal year. Also, Costa DC staff has had the opportunity to fill out some of the expense lines for this upcoming year. We do expect some changes from this budget, but we'd like to show you at least what we've started so far. So just to start off, sales tax performance for the year is up 7.11% in May compared to the same month in the prior year. Year to date, we're up 2.68% from last fiscal year. We've got a revenue over budget of $352,657. And then here's the Type B sales tax trend for this current year. And then just the graphic just describing the sales tax allocation. Of course, Costa DC receives a 0.5 cent of the sales tax allocation. And then a description of how we collect that sales tax. Of course, the Type B sales tax is a local option that voters elected to enact. The state comptroller releases sales tax to the city. The city then takes that sales tax and we split it 28% to the Economic Development Fund and 72% to the ballot fund. And then, of course, sales tax also lags 2 months. So March receipts are reflective of January sales. To get into a little bit of the numbers, we're going to start off with the ballot because it's a little bit more stable. Sales tax is increasing to 274, almost 275,000. That is a 2.38% increase in the budget. The way we calculate that budget is we project sales tax through the end of the year, what it's going to look like by the end of the year, and then we budget that for next year's budget. So we expect to see this increase in the ballot side of the funds. Interest on investments is also increasing to $32,000. This is a function of course, having the ability to invest a little bit more and rates kind of staying elevated, higher than we would have expected this time last year. As far as the expense side, the city services, this is the indirect cost portion allocated to the ballot. This is a number that we do expect to change. We received the final draft of our indirect cost study. We had a new vendor this year, and so we were working through that with them. We got those numbers. As soon as we have them available, we'll send them over to you guys, and of course, get the budget updated. The change on this fund is the ballot project debt service. This is the debt service that was issued when the voters first passed the measure to enact the 0.5 cent sales tax. And so we have a slight increase in the interest payment that we're making next year, or a slight increase in the principal payment that we're making next year. Every single year, we commit $335,000 of funding for affordable housing, so that stays stagnant. Our long-term water supply contribution is staying the same. This includes the $2.9 million that we provide the water department for future long-term water supply debt funding. And then it also includes a Fort Stockton payment and the West Texas Water Partnership. And then finally, to round out the fund is the future projects line. This is where we allocate any additional revenue. So this future projects line, because none of those expense lines are increasing, is increasing to that $305,000. Are there any questions on the ballot side?
I think we're good.
Of course, the current financial position of the ballot, this is as of April, I believe, or as of May. Committed for ballot projects, $570,000, unassigned fund balance, 16 million. And that's the amount that we can use for long-term water supply projects. On the economic development side, sales tax is the same story here. We're projecting a 2.38% increase in the next fiscal year. Interest on investments is also increasing as well, for an increase in revenue of 132,000, almost 133,000. Operations and maintenance is increasing a little bit by 600,000. Partner affiliations is increasing 14,500. And that increase in that 14,500 is primarily due to us just moving some line items around. There was some line items in operations and maintenance that we moved into partner affiliations related to events and partnerships that we have. Co-CDC staff, so this is the funding for salaries and benefits for co-CDC staff of 30,830. City services, again, we received that indirect cost report. We'll get that number updated as soon as we've got it processed. And then the rest of the line items there, the marketing for the Chamber of Commerce at no increase, advertising at no increase, business factory at no increase. Capital line, that's kind of just if we need some additional capital items, especially for the BRC, some repairs, things like that, we have that $35,000 built into the budget. And then future projects, after all those changes, is increasing $81,000. Any questions on the economic development side?
So the only two line items that you foresee potentially changing is the city services, and then if that increases, then future projects will decrease to offset?
Yes, sir. Any change to sales tax projections will impact that future projects line, and then, of course, any change to the expense up or down will adjust the amount that we have for future projects as well in the budget. I do think we have maybe some proposed changes, and we still have the ability to make changes between now and July. So if there are any changes to these numbers, we have some time to update them as well.
Okay. Questions? All right.
So Jonathan, this is just a preliminary budget, so between now and July, the next meeting in July, we'll come back with any proposed changes, and that's when the board will approve the budget for next year.
And one of the things we always ask with the board approval in July is that we have the opportunity to update that sales tax number just in case any projections do change by the end of the year. You know, of course, as we get closer to the end of the year, these projections get a little bit more reliable. And then the current financial position for the economic development, we've got committed for economic development projects of $3.8 million and an unassigned fund balance of $7.8 million. And I believe that's the end of my presentation. If there aren't any other questions or direction.
I think
So
we're good.
the unassigned fund balance, does that include the 2.4 from this year as well, or what?
Yes, sir. That is today, if we had to spend all of our money today for a project, that unassigned fund balance, we'd have $7.8 million to work with.
Sounds good. So if we have any changes, we'll let them know and bring it back in July.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Jonathan. Do we have any public comment on this item?
Jamal Shumpert, SMD3. I've been following the sales tax rates across a couple of different cities. Some that have economic development corporations that actually participate, and some that don't. Y'all participate. On the ones that don't, they're seeing about a 10 to 12% increase. But they're also about highways. Some of them, it's a little tricky because I think y'all are giving the 7% of economic development in y'all's own money. So it might be a break even that you can't see in the math. You'd have to dig deep into those numbers, understand what factors are bringing back your money. Y'all have those studies where the economic impacts, I don't think those will be adequate for this type of economics. The economic impact, does it actually add up and show you? Does it give you the percentage of each year? Like, I'm not sure how y'all are measuring that when it comes to y'all's development versus natural economic development that spurs the sales tax. Another issue with the replacement of a lot of they're trying to replace a lot of council members. Another thing that can be replaced is the ballot. And where they give you 29, 28%, they could change it to give you 1%. Right now, people are pretty upset. I would use this time, and especially with the $16 million in the ballot fund, to start doing quality of life projects aimed at certain districts so that you could at least have people satisfied. Because I know that the data center's coming. We just need resolutions. And the people would probably want resolutions, and the resolutions should be coming out of this area because this is where economic development is. Most people are gonna want the sustainable resolutions, not something that's traditional that we've already proposed. The ballot has $16 million. It can also be used as a quality of life and economic developer. I would suggest y'all look into those type of projects and do studies on things that could benefit that. That would be very useful. And I was wondering if the future projects for economic development today included the amendment for today's amendment for the $1 million that wasn't spent in the business part of the July 4th fund. I didn't know if it was or if it wasn't. I thought he was gonna ask a question about it, but he didn't. This is something I was curious about. Thank you.
So Jamal, to that million, I don't believe it is in there because it hasn't been approved yet.
Okay, all right, thank you. That makes sense. Thank you.
Thank you. So that is a non-action item. So we'll move on to item C. Discuss the Sanangelo Chamber of Commerce FY 2027 proposed budget and key performance indicators. Presentation by Steve Elanius, President and CEO of the Sanangelo Chamber of Commerce.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, Steve Elanius, President and CEO of the San Angelo Chamber of Commerce. Got three items I want to pass out to you just for conversational purposes, and I want to start with kind of the big picture and then narrow down to the budget aspect of it. And so the first element you have there is the 8 key industries that we are focused in on in recruiting. They're advanced manufacturing, logistics, aerospace and defense, advanced energy and grid innovation, healthcare and life sciences, technology, information and technology, data centers, and sports facility complexes. So this presentation, I'm one of those guys that like things kind of simple, so a one-pager always helps me. But behind that is kind of some of the strategies that we are working toward and have been working toward for, starting last year in terms of attracting industries to this community. And so very excited about the direction we're going. I think we've got the right team in place with Michael Looney and Andrew Killingsworth. I think they're moving the right direction. Very excited about what they're going to bring to the table for this community. And so I will tell you that I think our community is at a crossroads. And I don't want to say an existential crisis, but I've been doing this for a long minute, and I've been surprised by the rhetoric that I see in the community about growth. And that concerns me because as business people, either the economy is expanding or it's shrinking. There's no status quo, and the economy does not stay the same. And if we're not actively pursuing and developing economic opportunities in this community, you're going to see a community in decline. And the big challenge comes in terms of tax base and tax roll. How do you pay for things for basic services? And so I've been surprised by that. And I think it's something that we need to have conversations around in terms of where we're going as far as a community and what does economic development really look like for San Angelo. But I'm optimistic about what the future holds. But there are conversations that I'm seeing on the social media blogosphere talking about or opposed to, some basic, what I would consider basic growth opportunities for the community. So with that, the second document in there is the KPIs. Michael and I have worked on these and have had conversations around these. He does a great job of tracking and staying on top of these. So the key KPIs is 25 qualified leads. And those aren't folks that are interested. It's beyond that. Those are industries or businesses that are looking to expand or locate to San Angelo. And that they warrant his attention and efforts in terms of trying to bring them to San Angelo or to help them expand here locally. Business retention obviously is a big part of that, and we're excited with Andrew being on board and still looking at making, over the course of a 12-month fiscal year, 50 calls, reports, relationship processes for the existing businesses. Capital investment, looking at $25 million in the city, $25 million in the county. And that's a slow burn. Sometimes we think we've got stuff that's going to happen in the next fiscal year, and then markets change, financial markets change, and all of a sudden that project slows down. And so we're kind of looking at our crystal ball, thinking what's going to happen in 2027. Job creation, this stays the same in terms of what we're projecting. We committed to do 90 new jobs or retain jobs in the community. I think we're going to surpass that this year, but I think that's a healthy number in terms of jobs created in industries in this community. Obviously, workforce development is probably a top issue for every company or business that we talk with. Their ability to attract and retain employees is critical. And what can we do to help facilitate those type of quality employees that can get good paying jobs and that can stay with the company? We've had several conversations with local industries, and they have about a 25% churn in that first year of some of these manufacturing facilities in terms of the jobs that they're being able to keep folks in those jobs. And so if we can help reduce that for our industries, I think that's a huge plus. Startups, that's something that I'm a big believer in. As we talked about, the 4 stools of economic development, that's industrial recruiting, that's business retention, that's workforce development, and that's entrepreneurship development. And if you're not fostering that in your community, you're missing out on opportunities to kind of grow your own businesses and industries, and that continues to be an important part. Trade missions and site selectors, that's something that Mike has done a great job of going after and pursuing. And I think that's, again, going from playing catch to actually going out there and recruiting and bringing new industries in. Obviously, marketing and visibility, telling that story about why economic development is important, I think is another key element. And then obviously managing the pipeline, staying in contact with the industries that we have, that we're working with, and also with the local industries that we're wanting to help expand. So that brings us to the budget proposal. So if you look at what we're proposing, we propose salary goes down a little bit, about $50,000 compared to what we have currently. We're proposing in terms of the database to come down a little bit to about $50,000. We're very excited about the CRM program that we've got implemented and that we're going to be utilizing. Travel, obviously, is a key component to it. A little bit of an increase of $35,000, and then the memberships stay right at $9,000. If you look at then marketing, that moves up to marketing and printing, that moves down from $13,000 to a little bit over $6,000. And then you look at business retention expansion, that moves up from $11,000 to $20,000, what we're proposing. And then looking at site selectors and FAM tours, obviously as we work with companies that are looking to locate, getting them into the community and giving them a chance to basically kick the tires is what we're after. We want to increase that to $20,000 from the current budget of $8,700. And then special projects goes down from 20,000 to 12,000. And then you have the bookkeeping fee, and then also the management fee that we have, which stays the same. And then the proposed membership into the Texas Economic Development Corporation at 25,000. So, and I want to make the clarifying difference between the Texas Economic Development Corporation and the Texas Economic Development Council. The Texas Economic Development Corporation is part of the governor's economic development effort, and the council is a economic development association that we've belonged to for a number of years. With that, I'd be happy to try to answer questions that you might have. If you want to have conversations around strategies, directions, or plans.
Well, don't run away yet, Steve. If I may, Mr. Chairman. Let me go back to the KPIs. These are for the coming fiscal year.
That's
And
correct.
what does the calendar look like for that fiscal year? When do you start it? When do you start these KPIs?
Start measuring October 1. If you recall, Rick, we moved the fiscal year for the economic development and the DMO to October 1 to match the city. The chamber is going to be moving this year to an October 1 fiscal year also, so we'll all be in line.
How have your KPIs for 25, 26 performed? Are you meeting?
Very close to meeting them. The only one where we have fallen short is the capital investment. We originally thought it'd be 100 million, based off what we saw coming or what we thought we were going to be able to land and get them up and running in this fiscal year. That hasn't happened, and so I think we've reevaluated and looked at some things that we thought would be a good fit.
And so when you get to the proposed budget, these ups and downs are based on past performance and what you thought you might need, changes to what you actually need?
Yes, sir, and it really kind of fits into the strategic plan in terms of what we're trying to go after in terms of whether it's, industrial recruiting or BREP, and in terms of advanced manufacturing and some of those key elements that we just need to spend some additional time and focus on.
Okay. Thank you.
Steve, just running through here, trying to do quick math. You've got some proposed decreases and then increases in other areas. So just trying to compare the two, the decreases versus the increases. I've got about 19,000, roughly 19,000 difference in on the decrease side. Can you explain that exactly?
So when you say 19,000,
So I've got a reduction of $71,695, but then an increase of $52,500.
okay,
So when you do the math there, it's about $19,195 difference reduction.
in terms of the overall budget?
Correct.
Yeah, so what we did, Steve, last year, or this fiscal year, is we used Cornerstone to underwrite the operations where we had shortfalls. And so what we did this year, what we're proposing this year, is that we take the Cornerstone funds out of that equation and just use strictly the funding line items from the city and the county to fund the economic development effort. And then Cornerstone then becomes the tool to work not only with, that fund was originally created when there was the BRAC conversation around Goodfellow being closed, but it's kind of morphed into initiatives and new projects and programs that we want to pursue as far as economic development. So that's where you see the difference in terms of where the underwriting has come.
So I guess I'm trying to understand where that $19,000 goes. I mean, where should that go? What should?
Oh,
that
you're saying
be?
we're $19,000 to the, in the
Sure.
black?
Well, based on the numbers you're asking from us, we're $19,000 off, meaning we should reduce your budget by $19,000. Total.
Total? Let me verify that because I need to go back through that.
Okay.
So,
And if you're saying that is to offset Cornerstone, then we need to know where that 19,000 is gonna go.
Yeah.
based on your proposal here. Again, that's quick math. It may be off here or there, but just trying to understand where that difference is. I assume you're not asking for a reduction.
No.
So,
That's correct.
And Steve, just to clarify, I think what would be easier for me to look at is what's the current Development Corporation funding for this past year? Because it's not on this.
So the current funding from the Development Corporation is $476,000.
Okay. So that stays flat?
That stays flat, yes, sir.
Does the Tom Green County funding also stay flat?
That's what we're projecting, yes, sir.
any other questions, thoughts, concerns? I think as far as, the KPIs and everything that we're, just to make it blunt, I think we're getting, what we asked for with our funding. And you guys are doing an excellent job. We're seeing a return on our investment. Again, it's just understanding the numbers and making sure we know exactly where every dollar is
Yeah,
going.
I'll go back and make sure, verify that.
Okay. That's the only thing I've got. I think you guys are doing an exceptional job. The reports that you guys come to us are much more informative than in the past, and that's not knocking the past, but it just gives a better view and better transparency for the tax dollars that we're responsible for.
Yes, sir.
So, appreciate that. Any other questions, thoughts, concerns?
I would just have a thought, your infographic here, your one page to your original point about a community is either growing or shrinking, this is the kind of thing that the public at large needs to kind of understand what we're working on and what it means in terms of jobs and tax base and quality of life. So nice work on this.
Yeah, I want to follow up on, so, and I'm going to talk about data centers for just a minute. I will tell you, the economic development gods put one in our lap that is a very clean, doesn't use a lot of water, isn't loud, and can be a game changer in terms of the property tax that could go on the rolls for the city. And I've worked this and done stuff where you work on projects where you have blast zones and you have to have emergency plans for chemical leaks. You have some pretty noxious stuff that you look at trying to bring in terms of economic development for a community. This data center that's being proposed it checks so many different boxes for our community in terms of it's safe, it's not a big water user, it's not gonna make a lot of noise, it's not gonna generate a lot of noise, it's gonna provide not a lot of jobs, but some good paying jobs. And it's gonna impact the trades in the community during the construction phase. And 10, 15 years ago, every community would said, yes, absolutely. This is what we need. And so, I'm concerned about what I see happening, not only in San Angelo, but across this country when it comes to economic development and how people view economic development. And I want to encourage you as policymakers to hold fast, because if we don't grow the economy, you're gonna start seeing other things that are a lot more difficult to deal with. And when you have a zero-sum game and where you're trying, people lose customers and lose revenue, that's a different mindset in a community that is hard to overcome. So just some thoughts, commentary.
Sure. And, we are looking, as we move forward, I'm glad that you brought up Brett. I think that's an area that we need to focus more on. I know that Samuel's going to be a lot more involved in that as well. And to Jamal's comment, we need to help educate, get out there and help our existing entities that are here in town, that are loyal to this community, and we need to get out and support those. So I think that needs to be a bigger push moving forward. But that's all I've got. Anyone else? We have public comment on this item. Thank you, Steve.
Jamal Shuprin.
Jamal Shumpert, SMD3. Just like Steve, I ran into this during my campaign. There were certain things I wanted to do that was in my vision that people didn't want to do. So I talked to them about it. And believe it or not, they convinced me otherwise because this town is unique in its culture. It's similar to Abilene, similar to San Antonio, somewhat like Lubbock, but it's actually a vacation, hometown community feel. Those towns, you could pass by them, you could tell it's like let me stop here and have fun and go leave town. This is a town where people could come, build a life, and move on maybe, or stay. It's a really, really nice town, but the people you'll bring in with the data centers, they're worried will change the entire scope of the town. That I know it kind of will too. And then the biggest issue I have is I've seen this number over and over again. The other people the communities who are willing to work and come up with ideas, they get the best of these. This isn't going to be a data center. 20, 30 years from now, it'll probably be a super computer center or a quantum computer center. With that many chips in it, I'm sure that's where they're headed. But why wouldn't we be the chip designers? NVIDIA's business scheme is to get chips from Taiwan, semiconductors, program them, and then sell them at exorbitant rates to American customers and everyone else. That was very simple. Imagine if someone thought of that here in San Angelo. So the education behind everything is the key driver, key performance indicator, whatever you want to call it, to economic development. That's what I found out. Because if you don't have anybody create anything, then you can't manufacture or build it. So I think putting our money towards education in certain realms would benefit us a lot, instead of putting it towards, building a manufacturing facility or upgrading land that we basically getting landlords for out there at the industrial park. I mean, they got the land sold up. They're just going to sublease it to people. That stifles business, because if they sublease it too high, then a lot of businesses have to move on to another town. So a lot of these traditional things in economics and the way businesses have been working have been figured out by companies, and they understand that's how y'all are going to do business. So they'll just go on to another town or threaten to, and now you're in an issue with the guy you subleased. I mean, you already leased it to, who won't lease it at a fair, reasonable price to the person you want to come into your town. You're going to have those issues because of the greed that comes with these data centers. I personally don't have too much of an opinion other than responsible, sustainable growth. In this budget, I didn't see a lot on there. I didn't see anything. I didn't see the budget myself, but he didn't talk about Goodfellow. And one of the things I wanted for sure on the budget was our active participation with Goodfellow to integrate them into our community. I did not see that. That's one thing I wanted to comment on the budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Jamal. All right, we'll move into item D, consider a resolution authorizing the board president to negotiate and execute a memorandum of understanding with the city of San Angelo and the amount not to exceed $50,000 for funding of the economic development component of the city comprehensive plan, a project authorized under chapters 501 and 505 of the Texas Development Corporation Act, and recommending approval by city council. Presentation by Ryan Gaddy.
Good morning, Development Corporation Board. Ryan Gaddy, Economic Development Director. This agenda item is a carry forward from the previous meeting where Mr. Aaron Benoit, our Development Services Director, presented an opportunity for the Development Corporation to participate in funding the city's comprehensive plan. So the request is for funding $50,000. And that was what was missing out of the agenda last time, was an amount. So the request is to fund an amount not to exceed $50,000. And there are some conditions and requirements on that. The memorandum of understanding will need to include specific language with regard to funding the economic development component of that plan. And the statement of work or the contract will need to specify that within the $50,000 that is allocated to that project. So we will make sure that whenever we come up with the agreement, that those elements are in that contract. So are there any questions? If there are, I think Mr. Vinoy is in the audience and he'd be happy to answer, but. So the request is to authorize the board president to negotiate an agreement not to exceed $50,000 to fund the economic development component of the comprehensive plan.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. All those in favor say, or we need to take public comment before this? Either way, okay. We have, sorry for that. We have a motion, we have a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes.
Is there any public?
Do we have public comment?
Jamal Schupern.
Jamal Shumpert, SMD3. This is what I was talking about, but not a bad thing. I'll be in support of this comprehensive plan because it's been a long time since we've had one. But I would like to go a little bit further, and maybe every 5 years, or no, it might take 25 years, but it's for the future. How about we take $50,000, put it aside for each district, and just focus on one district first, and spend it on a master plan for that district and redo those districts. That way, the comprehensive plan will be much easier and quality of life will skyrocket because you'll know what you need to put in those areas based off your master plan. That's why I would say I'm in support of this one, spend the money to figure it out, but to also expand it. Put a program back where you can put $50,000 a year towards each district. Might be like $300,000, and in 5 years you'll have a plan for all 6 districts. Well, yeah, it's 6 districts, right? But yeah, that's all I want to say. I'm in support of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Joel.
Mr. Chairman, I'll be honest, I have a hard time understanding most of what Mr. Shumpert has to say to us in his public comments. However, what I think I heard him say was something about future funding for master plans that would look at specific districts on a scheduled calendar basis. I'd like to add that discussion or have staff bring that back to us in a future agenda, on a future agenda item to discuss that possibility, because I think that's a wise comment, and I'd love to study that further.
Sounds great. So this plan does encompass the entire city. It is a comprehensive, so you're asking to specify certain areas, districts?
Well, that's what I want us to look at.
Okay.
Is to maybe put District 1 one year, District 2 the next year, District 3 the following year, and so on, and put them on a rotating basis, so you're renewing your master plan. I don't know.
Annually instead of every 5 years.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay,
I like it.
we'll put that up for discussion.
You know, and along that line, whenever we discussed this item at the last meeting, I think the request for a board member to participate on that economic development. So, you know, to the extent someone wants to serve on that comprehensive plan specifically with their eyes on the economic development component,
Yes.
I think that's going to be critical.
Absolutely.
So,
Anytime we're allocating funding, it's pertinent to have one of these members on that board or committee or whatever that is, so. Great comment. All right.
so you need
Move on
vote.
to item E, consider resolution. We good?
He was asking if you took a vote on that. and
We
you-
did.
You did.
Okay, motion passed. Item E, consider resolution authorizing the board president to negotiate and execute a memorandum of understanding with the city of San Angelo in the amount not to exceed $34,000 for an airport catchment analytics study, a project authorized under chapters 501 and 505 of the Texas Development Corporation Act, and recommending approval by city council. Presentation, Ryan Getty.
Yeah, this is Ryan Gaddy, Economic Development Director. This item is similar to the one we just approved, and it's something that we brought back from the last meeting. where the airport director, Justin Fletcher, presented an opportunity for us to have a study completed that would allow us to present that information for the possibility of either adding a flight or maybe even adding an airline to our services at the airport. Before, we didn't have an amount. The amount that is required for that study is $34,000, and that's what is being requested at this time.
Is there a time frame on this study?
As far as completing it, I think
Correct.
Justin's here, but I think what is it, Justin, about a year?
Morning, Justin.
Morning. So once the agreement's executed and we go to work with Informa, the data will go back 12 months. So it'll give us historical data of 12 months that we can pull analytics down to that granular level that I previously discussed in the presentation.
Okay, and then how long does it take for them to complete that study?
You have immediate access to the data.
Oh, okay, great.
So generally after it gets approved by council, and then it will take.
Yeah, once everything's executed, we'll have immediate data, immediate access to the data.
Great. Okay,
Move approval.
Move.
And part of the agreement, I apologize, is working with Informa. They will help us analyze the data. They'll help us compile it into kind of action items that we can take from that data, create a business plan, if you will, that best suits the airport. Is it an additional route? Is it a new service city? Those types of tactics are looked at with the data.
perfect. Be great data to look at. All right, we have a motion from Director Lassiter, a second from Director Rodriguez. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Justin.
Thank you.
Do we have a comment?
Public comment?
Mr. Schneeman looks like he wanted to say.
No, I just want to make sure we get public comment in there.
Thank you. All right, we'll move to item F, consider approving an amendment to the current project budget to close out the business flood relief project number 57043 in the amount of $1 million and return the funding allocation to future projects budget. Presentation by Bob Schneeman, Economic Development Project Manager.
Good morning. Board may recall that in end of July, beginning of August of last year, the board approved $1 million for potential flood relief for businesses. We also did another $1 million for home repairs. To date, there has only been one company that expressed an interest in the business side of that. So, and they did not follow through. They were not happy with the terms of the agreement that required a certain amount of performance on their part and a clawback provision if it didn't work out. So to date, there has been no money spent out of that fund. And so what we're recommending is that the money that's allocated to that fund just be reallocated to future projects. It doesn't mean that the project goes away. It just means we're not freezing those funds specifically for that purpose. If a company were to come in now, or even after the budget amendment, and ask for help, and it was flood related, board could still do that. The main reason that we did the allocation to begin with was to start the 60-day notice, of a 60-day public notice, and we can make those funds available. Those funds will still be available under that original notice as long as the project is specifically for flood relief or flood repair. So we're not doing away with the project, we're just freeing up that money to put it back into future projects.
So we're just essentially unencumbering those funds. But
Sorry?
still, we're essentially just unencumbering those funds.
That's correct, yeah. It's basically just a budget amendment.
Okay.
Do I recall that our hands are tied to specific NAICS codes that could utilize that money?
Yes,
It's
sir.
not-
Yes, sir.
Okay.
They'll be evaluated the same as any other project for economic development.
Any other questions, comments? Take a motion.
Public comment? Jamal Schupert.
Thank you.
Jamal Shumpert, SMD3. It was a little upsetting because that was my district that they got hurt the most. It was right up in my house. I got very lucky. I was a little upset to know that they couldn't utilize the funds. A lot of those businesses, they're not in compliance with what y'all would need them to have. That was the issue. I know Mr. Sneeman probably wouldn't say it because it looks bad on the businesses in our culture, but I know most of the businesses and the business people in the area. Free money for them, and they just wasn't set up correctly to take advantage of it. That's the educational part of when we get businesses to set them up correctly so that they can take advantage of the money we give them. That wouldn't, if it had happened on the other side, I promise you all million would have been gone, and that's a great thing. We just need our business people to be legitimate like y'all business people. And that was a little upsetting. The one business that did, I think I'm not gonna say their name because it's private confidential. I think, like he said, the issue was what he would have had to do to get the money, not if he was legitimate or not. He's legitimate. Outside of that, I think it was a great idea, and maybe we should make this a full-on disaster fund because so far we've had the Bradford tornado, winter storm, and now this flood, and all of them have come from the Development Corporation over about 8 years since 2019. I think it should possibly be a permanent fund, disaster fund, instead of just flood related, because I don't know if it's just only flood related that can get the assistance because of the wording. Maybe we can go back and change it and be all over disaster for everybody. But thank you.
Thank you.
Michael Looney as well.
A couple things. Michael Looney, Vice President of Economic Development with the San Angelo Chamber of Commerce. Relative to this action and this program that was set up, it should be noted that there are two manufacturers in San Angelo, one in Tom Green County, so they're not inside city limits, and then one inside the city limits we're in the process of negotiating terms for their relocation and standing up all new facilities within the industrial park. So the outreach that we did, which I reported on probably about 8 months ago, is that we personally met with 21 companies that intercepted us. We called them, we went to visit them, had sometimes multiple meetings with them to understand what kind of damage that they incurred. At that time, many of them were still assessing what those damages were. They knew about this program, they were very aware of it, except for the one company that Mr. Schneeman mentioned. All the companies that we had met with, 21 companies that were directly affected, whether they were in county, whether they were in city limits, said that their insurance was going to cover all of their damages and that there was no need for any use of COSA-DC funding. So every one of them, they were all had this project revealed to them, and they knew that we were there to help. We didn't necessarily have to deploy any of these funds, but the resourcing that we were able to give to these companies was extremely valuable. Everything from immediate emergency repairs, working with FEMA. We personally went out with Bill Gravel, the regional director of FEMA from Washington, D.C. We worked with Billy Graham Ministries. We worked with several private organizations that provided construction relief, materials provision. We put together a program through our SARMA program where if any manufacturers or fabricators had any damage to any equipment, including borrowing personnel to complete tasks, that was revealed, and that happened on 2 occasions. So it wasn't necessarily a dissemination of the funds. This was only a component of the entire effort, and I wanted everybody to know that we made absolutely sure repeated times to see if there was anybody, any companies out there that needed relief. If they were out in the county, we were going to try to figure out a way to deploy emergency funds to them. That didn't happen because many of them were very well insured, and that's because many of those companies knew that they were in a flood zone and they were paying those premiums. So I wanted to defend this project. The outreach, I think, was excellent. It was personal, it was one-on-one, and it was consistently followed up with repetitively up until about 3 months ago. So we feel that the recovery effort that this project reached out to was well handled, it was well done, it was a conscientious and it was an aggressive and a proper move by the COSA-DC, and it really created a very interesting set of dialogues with these companies who saw us immediately on the ground. We were on the ground 6 days after the flood with offers. And so we did the right thing. Oregon did the exact right thing to do. So I'm really proud of this project. SBDC, absolute yeoman's duty on pulling alongside this effort and making sure that everybody who was damaged knew that they had assistance handy. These conversations also revealed not necessarily facility damage, but the homes of people who worked at these companies. We had 2 separate occasions with people who worked at companies that were not touched, but their homes were severely damaged. So we used these meetings that we had with these 21 companies to identify employees whose homes were damaged, because ultimately that does negatively impact the facility itself because it can't operate as well. So anyway, I just wanted to make that comment. Thank you.
Michael, just clarification, do you have any other projects, any other entities that potentially could use funding in the pipeline?
No.
Okay.
We have been in up until about 3 months ago, we were still in very close contact, and we still are, with the 2 companies that are now in the process of negotiating for land in the industrial park to get out of those flood zones. And that we provided them with these companies with a lot of education that, yes, it was a rare event, but it could happen again. And 2 companies are right now in the process of negotiating a dual project where they would both be on the same piece of land. We'll talk more about that as that materializes. I have been in touch with both of them last week. They need to still get a couple of discussions held internally between themselves. They're both similar companies that found through the process triggered by this outreach program, that they have so many commonalities, it makes sense for them to be on the same piece of land so that they can share resources. And that's going to be a success story.
Great. Thank you. Questions, comments?
I consider this the best possible outcome. We reacted and the money wasn't needed. I move approval.
We have a motion to approve. We have a second? We have a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. All right, moving to item G, update presentation regarding Project Heavy Metal. Presentation, Michael Looney.
Okay, Michael Looney, Vice President of Economic Development with the San Angelo Chamber of Commerce. This is an update on Project Heavy Metal. Heavy Metal is a national company that does not desire to be identified publicly yet, as they're still going through some internal negotiations. This will be an expansion of an existing operation that is based on the West Coast. This is a company that specializes in recycling solar panels. They've been doing solar panel recycling for many years. They have identified a need because Texas has such an abundance of solar power generation facilities throughout the state. This company, interestingly enough, you'll recall that the ATI Group, which is a real estate development company, contemplated to purchase and did 25 acres within the industrial park with the idea of building speculative warehouse and office facilities in the industrial park. Because that's kind of one of our issues, is that we'll get leads on companies that are interested in 50 to 100,000 square foot facilities, and there are none because they need them immediately. You know how that goes. They don't want to wait for construction. So as we were in the process of negotiating this, solar power related solar panel recycling company came to us with a requirement for 20 to 25 acres in San Angelo. So that changed the direction of the negotiations very quickly. The ATI Development Group is in the process of final negotiations with the prospective company. They expect that they'll have that handled probably in the next 30 days. This company would deploy approximately $12.5 million in facilities costs. It is a four-step program promulgated by the EPA. It is a zero landfill solution. So what this company does is they intercept up to 3 million panels per year. They recycle them. They have to be recycled within 72 hours of their arrival on site. So it's not like a situation where they're going to stack materials. We've all heard and that was one of the concerns I had. I said, I know there's an operation north of San Angelo that is supposedly recycling wind turbine blades. And I said, I don't want that here. And they said, nope, they have to start the process of recycling these things for a zero landfill solution within 72 hours of arrival. This company pulls out all the aluminum, glass, copper, silver, and gallium, which they then sell on the commodities market. And all of the components are then, some of the glass and the copper are sent to other parts of the country where they're smelted and reused. There are not very many solar panel recycling companies. The one that we're working with is the best, they're the biggest, and they're the oldest, and they're very well capitalized. They're going to start off with probably 20 full-time jobs. Over about a 2-year period, they think they'll ramp up to about 40, and that includes management staff, accounting, safety officers. When negotiating with them, when getting to know them, we were insistent, Bob and I were very insistent that they prove up to us that this is a very ecologically friendly process. We didn't want a scrapyard. And they assured us with materials that they sent to us from some of their other recycling facilities that this is not. It's a very clean process. It is a proprietary process. And they work very closely with a representative of the EPA. It's a 4-step proprietary process. In fact, it's so proprietary that they really actually didn't share all of the mechanical details with us about the process. And it seemed like a pretty innocent question when we met with them in Dallas in November, and they said that is a very closely guarded trade secret. And I said, okay, fair enough. So we feel like we're working with a very reputable company. They very much like San Angelo. They love the central location. They love the fact that we've got 4 heavy haul commercial operations hubbed out of San Angelo that mostly focus on aggregates movement and oil field services. And these are large fleets, and they desire to take advantage of those relationships so that they can use the crews and the trailers and the equipment to go out across North America, pick up these panels that are usually contained in Connex boxes, and then bring them back to San Angelo for recycling. So this could also be, we think, a very good opportunity for at least 4 of our heavy haul companies that are always looking for new opportunities. And if we've actually put them together with these companies, and they've already had preliminary discussions on how they could work together. So all the parts are falling in place. We feel that this is an excellent opportunity for San Angelo as a renewable power region. We recall we have 3 solar power plants on the ground in Tom Green County, nearly 1 gigawatt of power emanating from solar onto the Texas state grid. There's a 4th solar power plant that is in construction in the south side of the county. And our aspiration was to build a very good reputation within the renewables community, especially with a focus on solar power, and find ways we could use that reputation and those relationships to bring manufacturing type operations for the renewables sector into San Angelo proper, into the city limits. And we believe that this does that. We feel very confident in this one. They've not asked for any kind of assistance from COSA DC, but because we are your partners, we wanted to let you know that this process is moving forward at the industrial park. I don't think there's going to be any need for any kind of incentives or assistance in that way. They are looking at 2 options for their natural gas feed. One would possibly require some assistance from Coast DC, but that's still being looked at, and that is about a 2-mile run of a natural gas line from Pulliam over into the industrial park to give them a much broader, wider pipe. However, they have an on-site solution where they would just bring the natural gas, the compressed natural gas on site. They would use 3 tanks. Those tanks would last about 90 days total, and that would at the very least get them started. This is not a speculative company. This is a company that has contractual agreements with multiple solar power plants throughout North America, and it's effectively a build-to-suit for that completion of those contractual obligations to recycle those panels. Panel recycling is a tradition in the renewables community. It is conducted through what's known as the TIPS program, where solar power companies will have up to 800 to 1 million panels per site, and around 3 to 5% of those panels are decommissioned every year. Now, if you multiply that by 100 solar power developers throughout Texas and Oklahoma and New Mexico, that adds up to a very large volume of panels that need to be recycled. The renewables community has a tradition because of their mission of green energy. No landfills will be utilized for the defunct panels. It's not necessarily dead panels, but panels that are starting to lose their efficiency. And so those are monitored by an O&M system that will tell them if a panel is starting to hit about a 60% efficiency rate, and then they'll remove them because they don't want to cause a cascade effect, so they pull them pretty quickly. So meaning it's not a seasonal where they say, well, we're not going to decommission any panels for another 5 years. It's a constant upgrade. So anyway, we feel really confident in it, and we're looking forward in the next couple of weeks to coming back with a reveal of who the company is, and we'll keep you posted. Are there any questions on this one?
That's great. Any questions, thoughts? We have
Okay.
public comment on this one? Public comment on this one? Thank you, Michael.
Jamal
Thank you.
Shupert.
Fantastic.
Jamal Shumpert, SMD3. I highly support this project. He is 100% right. There's very few solar panel recyclers in the world, period. And we got quite a few solar panels up all across the world. It's because of the energy race. They'll have longevity. I would ask you guys to partner with this company because they could be international and they could be here in San Angelo. They could bring your property tax development probably just as high as that data center because they will be very, very much needed in the future. Everybody's going to use solar panels until we get nuclear energy, the nuclear reactors working. And we're at least 30 to 50 years from that, which makes it about 30, 50 years worth of millions of solar panels coming in San Angelo a year. But yeah, I highly support it. I got extra excited when he said something about it because I was looking up solar panel recyclers once I worked on a project that was offered by the Chamber of Commerce with the county. I seen quite a bit of solar panels, and I was like, where would we put these when they're done? And I started looking into it, and I was like, man, that would be great if something like that came to San Angelo. And it's like you picked my brain. So yeah, I'm very excited, impressed, kind of. I would like to thank Mr. Looney for finding that project. I guess that money was well spent for him to go out and research sustainable businesses. Well, thank y'all.
Thank you. Michael, I did have one question. Go ahead. This may be an ignorant question.
No, please go ahead.
Forgive me, but you know, you see more and more residential homes that are getting solar panels put on roofs. Is this an opportunity for those smaller companies to be able to recycle their panels?
It is. Great question. Most of this company's book of business focuses on utility scale solar, but they also will intercept and collect residential panels as well. They sure will. It's a great question. And they're doing that in a smaller facility in another part of the country, West Coast, California. I don't know if I mentioned, I can't remember, the estimated investment of the facility would be about 12.5 million of capital investment. That just builds the facility. It'd be about a 50,000 square foot building. So all of the recycling activities is handled inside in a controlled environment. I think that's very important to mention. These are not rock crushers and crushing machines and smelters laying out on a yard. This is all handled internally. And I will add that as we go forward, our desire is to have a representative of the company come and speak before this board to give some more details on the mechanics of, as they can reveal, because they did say it's a proprietary process, but the materials they sent us, it is a very clean operation. Because we don't want something that's not a clean operation. Right. I mean, that's what good would that do anybody? But one thing we have found is that they do have a smaller footprint with residential solar, but they're very concerned about that. And that actually came up in a conversation. Residential solar tends to disappear, and no one knows where they go. Utility scale must go to a recycler. You can't just ditch them in a landfill. And that's just a tradition of the industry, which I think is quite conscientious. San Angelo being a region that takes a lot of pride and is very protective of its ecological security, that's a perfect fit. Any other questions? Okay, I didn't know if I remember to say what the CapEx estimate is. We don't have an exact number, but they said it's going to be about 12.5 million.
Perfect.
Okay?
That's fantastic. Thank you. All right, we'll go ahead and move on. We do not have any executive session items for closed session. Item 6, so we'll move to item 7, follow-up and administrative issues, announcement and consideration of future agenda items. We did have one Mr. Mantooth would like to direct staff to do a little research on. And then we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? We are adjourned 9:42.